Yaffee program on WVNN.
Your parents were racist. That's what we're supposed to say. I guess. We're still doing this. The Democrat Party cannot get out of their own way when it comes to identity politics. They can't. Their whole life, worldview, platform, everything is based on identity politics. They don't know what to do without it. And it's sad. In some ways, it's dangerous. But in other ways, it's laughable. Now, the reason I said that your parents were racist is because, yes, there is a Democrat politician in Alabama who decided to try to make a big deal out of all of this. And we'll talk about that in a moment. And then, of course, we have redistricting to talk about as well. There's some breaking news on that. Iran. We'll get to that later on in the show. You are listening to the Yaffee program. This is the show where you can count on the latest news, the important guests, and the best analysis, all for your morning commute. Here on News Talk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. I mentioned we'll have the Alabama bullet points. A lot of news when it comes to redistricting in the bullet points. You know, I had on yesterday Hans von Spakovsky, who is a legal expert, used to be with the Heritage Foundation, is now with Advancing American Freedom. He thinks the Supreme Court is going to side with this 3-judge panel. Now, I wrote about that at YellowHammerNews.com as well. I don't think so. I disagree. I never disagree with them. I think it's a given that the Supreme Court is going to overturn what that 3-judge panel said. But we'll talk about that later on. As I mentioned, yes, we'll have the latest in Iran. President Trump trying to send a message that he still is going to be tough on Iran. And, later on we'll also have, let's see, we've got What's Trending. We got the Yaffee program Rewind. We have your text messages on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. And Walker is here producing. She will do What's Trending later on. Walker, how are you today?
I'm doing good this morning because today went better than yesterday.
Well, okay. That's always good when today is better than yesterday.
Yes, because as I told you off air that I burnt my tongue very badly yesterday morning, and I still feel it. But that did not happen this morning, so it's a good day.
I do like that it's like the bar is I didn't burn my tongue.
Yes.
So it's a good day.
So, sometimes you got to have low expectations.
All right, good. I do hate it when that happens. It is the worst.
Yeah, because it feels like you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, because you can't. There is nothing you can do about it. You just have to suffer through it for a couple of days, and food just doesn't taste as good as it should.
Yeah, I learned that it takes a few days to a week for your tongue to heal.
Yeah, it depends how bad the burn is and everything else. I get that. All right, if you want to weigh in on that, maybe I guess you can. 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. Now, I found this first at 1819 News. The headline here is, Your Parents Were Racist. Democrat State Representative Datcher rants about race and quote-unquote uncomfortable truths in online post. So it's State Representative Kelvin Datcher wants you to know that your parents were racist. Now, according to the outgoing lawmaker, anyone who voted for Governors George Wallace were racist, and if you yourself oppose Medicaid expansion or Obamacare, you're racist. Now, this is someone who lost his recent election, so he's obviously throwing a temper tantrum because this is what lawmakers are doing now. It says Datcher came in a distant third in his primary and will not be returning to the legislature. Prior to being elected, he worked for Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin. So he's throwing a temper tantrum. That is a big part of what he's doing here. But I'm going to read a lot of this, actually, and go through it and see what you think. Obviously, I'll react to it. He had a long post here on Facebook. Kevin Datcher said, your parents were racist. That's a hard sentence to read. Okay. It's so hard to read. Actually, no. I mean, the Democrats every day call me racist at this point. Everything is racist. So it's not hard to read because literally it's all you say now. That's all Democrats say every day is everything is racist. Says he continues on. Your parents were racist. That's a hard sentence to read. It's a harder sentence to say. But with conversations happening right now about race, history, and equality in America, especially after recent Supreme Court decisions, we cannot keep avoiding uncomfortable truths. Not everyone's parents, not every family, but in Alabama and across much of the South, the numbers tell a story we should be honest enough to face. Now, if you ask anyone, they'll pretty much tell you, yeah, Jim Crow was racist. But you know what's kind of missing in this? He doesn't really talk about? When you're talking about the KKK, when you're talking about Jim Crow, when you're talking about George Wallace, they were Democrats. Just had to point that out. He's not going to mention that. If we're going to really go over the true history of racism in Alabama, I mean, that's part of the true history. Oh, well, it flipped to Yaffee to Republican. Okay, that's convenient. But he says, if your parents or grandparents voted for George Wallace, by the way, my parents nor grandparents voted for him, just so you all know. But he said, they voted for a man who built his political career on segregation, humiliation, and open racism. Okay, we know this. Yada, yada, yada. I don't want to. It says in 1962, Wallace received 96% of the vote in Alabama. Okay. And are you saying that he would today? Even George Wallace himself came out and said he had regrets. He said, this is not ancient history. Many of the people who cast those votes are still alive. Many raised families, led churches, ran businesses, taught in schools, and shaped communities. That history didn't just appear just because time passed. And yet today, many Americans want to pretend racism was limited to a few men with fire hoses and Confederate flags, instead of recognizing how deeply accepted it once was by ordinary people. Okay. What's my biggest problem with this? I mean, not everything he said here is wrong. There's some truth to this. Obviously, racism was deeply embedded in Alabama and the South. Obviously, racism played a role in the Civil War and the Confederacy and slavery. Obviously, all of that is true. But what I hate about a lot of this, one, you're going to see in a moment, it becomes about much more than history in Alabama. He wants to use all of this to promote a left-wing democratic socialist agenda. That's the problem. Okay, we can talk about racism, but the solution for racism that happened in the past is not socialism. I'm sorry. Just because I'm not a socialist doesn't mean I'm racist. And that's where a lot of this stuff, people get tuned out. Now he said, but when he got there, the pool was gone. Well, he talked about something that happened in his life. We'll skip that real quick. He says, if we're honest, some of that poison still lingers. When states would rather let rural hospitals close than expand health care because the policy became associated with America's first black president, we should at least be willing to ask ourselves difficult questions about who we are and what still drives our politics. Now, I want to point this out here. This is the problem. Because we can't have an honest conversation because you're not having an honest conversation. We're no longer talking about the impact of racism in America. We're talking about current political agendas, and you're talking about a socialist program put forward by Obama. That's nothing to do with race. You know how I know that? Because you know who was the first mainstream politician to really push forward nationalized health care in my lifetime? Hillary Clinton. Remember Hillary Care? The same people that were against Obamacare were also against Hillary Care. Yet, it's all about race? Oh, maybe it has nothing to do with race. Maybe it's because people don't buy into the socialist narrative. Anyway, he says, because real progress does not begin with defensiveness. It begins with honesty. If your parents were part of that system, acknowledge it. If your community benefited from it, acknowledge it. If racism opened doors for some while locking them for others, acknowledge it. Not to shame yourself, not to hate your family, but because a nation cannot heal from what it refuses to confront. This country has probably head-on confronted the problem of racism more than any other country in the history of the world. We literally had to send federal troops to Little Rock, Arkansas to desegregate schools. We have holidays, roads named after Martin Luther King Jr. It is constantly taught in our history and everywhere of the racist past in the South, to the point where people don't realize that a lot of that they think it was like that in the whole country all the time, which is not true. To the point where now they just say every white person was racist and every ancestor of a white person was racist, which doesn't confront the problem, does not help heal our nation. It just divides us anymore. He said, history is not asking white Americans to carry shame. It is asking you to carry responsibility. And responsibility begins with telling the truth, even when it hurts. We act like, it's so funny. He acts like we never talk about it. We never hear it. We never confront it. None of that is true. You go to Montgomery, Alabama today, and there is a statue of Rosa Parks at the bus stop. That's a lot different than when she was arrested because she sat in the wrong part of the bus. The point I'm trying to make is, yes, we can have hard conversations, hard truths about the impacts of racism. But we have to also be honest about the fact that there has been an enormous amount of progress in this country since the 1960s. And that the reason why there was is because the ideal in the Constitution is that we treat everyone as individuals. And yet, anytime you talk about that, then you're called a racist. So when you start saying your parents were racist, you're racist, it now rings hollow. Because when everything is racist, then, of course, nothing is racist. And that's the problem. We can talk about the real history of Alabama, but then when you start saying, if you're against Obamacare, you're a racist, I tune you out because it's no longer about having those honest conversations. It's just about your political agenda. And it's annoying. So if you want to react to this, I just had to get that in there because it's just they can't let go of it. 866-494-9866. 866-494-WVNN. Coming up next, we'll get to the Alabama bullet points. And at the bottom of the hour, we'll kind of give an update on Iran as well, as Trump talked about it yesterday. You're listening to the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
The Yaffee program.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. We're here on News Talk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. If you want to weigh in, we have the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. Let's get to the headlines. Right now, we have those Alabama bullet points.
Alabama bullet points. Today's headlines from around the Yellowhammer State.
Sponsored by Larry's Pistol and Pawn. Number 4 today, an AM Research Group poll shows that John Wall is ahead of Wes Allen by 15 points in the lieutenant governor's race. This is for the GOP primary runoff. A recent research group poll shows that Alabama Republican Party chairman, or former Alabama Republican Party chairman, John Wall, is leading Secretary of State Wes Allen by 15 points in the GOP primary runoff for lieutenant governor. Now, the two advanced from the May primary, where Wall narrowly topped Allen, 40.6% to 38%. But in this poll, it shows Wall at 57.7%, where Wes Allen is at 42.3%. So Wall is picking up more and more voters, at least according to the poll. Now, we still have 19.1% undecided, so anything is possible here. but the Trump endorsement and some of the money he is spending is starting to work, I think. Yes, number 3, what I was talking about at the top of the show. Democrat State Representative Datcher rants about race in an online post on Facebook. So Democratic Alabama State Representative Kelvin Datcher out of Birmingham, who is an outgoing lawmaker who finished a distant third in his recent primary, posted a lengthy social media rant urging white people to confront uncomfortable truths about racism. Now, in the post, he declared your parents were racist, acknowledging it's a difficult statement but necessary amid discussions on race, history, and equality following Supreme Court decisions. He clarified it didn't apply to everyone, but highlighted that in Alabama and the South, many parents or grandparents who voted for segregation as governors and also supported a politics of segregation, humiliation, and open racism that shaped communities. See, as I mentioned, there's a lot of truth to what he said until he starts talking about Obamacare and stuff. Then I'm like, whatever, shut up. Stupid. Number 2 today, a couple stories here on the redistricting battle. Governor Kay Ivey extends a key deadline in special primary as Alabama awaits the Supreme Court's decision here. So Governor Kay Ivey has extended a key certification deadline for Alabama's August 11th special primary election by 5 days, moving it from May 29th to June 3rd. Now, the move creates a breathing room for the state to receive a hoped-for favorable U.S. Supreme Court ruling on its 2023 congressional redistricting map before candidate names are finalized for the ballot. Now, Ivey issued the amended election calendar while Attorney General Steve Marshall's emergency stay applications are pending at the High Court. So in a statement, Ivey expressed full support for the appeal and optimism that the court will allow Alabama to proceed with the 2023 map for the special primary. The adjustment ensures the state's election process can adapt to Supreme Court decisions. And number 1 here also on the redistricting front, the U.S. Department of Justice has filed a brief backing Alabama in the Supreme Court redistricting rematch after the lower court defied Calais, that decision. So the U.S. Department of Justice filed an amicus brief at the Supreme Court supporting Alabama's request for an emergency stay to block a 3-judge district court's reimposed injunction against the state's 2023 congressional map. Now, the lower court had reinstated the injunction on May 26th, just hours before candidate list deadlines for the August 11th special primary. Despite the Supreme Court's May 11th order vacating a prior ruling and directing reconsideration under its recent Louisiana versus Calais decision. Now, the DOJ argues the district court defied Calais by failing to properly disentangle race from partisanship, presuming racial discrimination from Alabama's refusal to create a second black opportunity district when the clear motive was partisan. So we'll talk more about that later on. I know that Steve Marshall had things to say about that as well. He did an interview with a local ABC affiliate, so we'll have that later on in the show. Right now, I'll tell you about Larry's Pistol and Pawn. Keep telling you, it's wedding season. A lot of people get married in June, July, or August. And, of course, one thing you need if you're going to get married, well, first you have to get engaged. So if you need an engagement ring, go to Larry's Pistol and Pawn. If you need wedding rings, go to Larry's Pistol and Pawn. If you need a lot of other stuff, they have it as well at Larry's Pistol and Pawn. You can put jewelry on layaway, which is really cool. So maybe you want to wait a little bit longer, have time to pay it off. You can do that and more at Larry's Pistol and Pawn in Madison off Greenbrier Exit 3 by the Big Rusty Water Tower. And go to the website, pistolandpawn.com, pistolandpawn.com. Let them know you heard about it from Yaffee.
It's the Yaffee Program on WVNN.
The Hammer Alley Podcast, an 80s flashback mockumentary.
Back in the 80s, there were 1,000 bands trying to make it in the world of rock, but there was one band that had it all, Hammer Alley.
Whatever happened to Hammer Alley?
How did they go from Top of the Rock
I'm looking for a music video. They're a band from 1987, Hammer Alley. Ever heard of them?
to rock bottom?
Dude, I was born in 1987.
I can't believe he's doing this.
Hammer Alley.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM WVNN. Welcome back to the Yaffee program. I am Alabama's voice of reason, Huntsville's conservative conscience, and in fact, according to Grok, the AI knows, I am often compared to Rush Limbaugh. What can I say? Me and Rush are just is the same. Okay, even I don't believe that. Anyway, in the last segment, we were talking about this social media post from an Alabama state lawmaker who said, your parents are racist. We need to confront that truth. And, of course, people were against Obamacare and expanding Medicaid because of racism, not because of politics. We had a caller who wanted to weigh in on that right now. Aaron Thomas is on the line. Aaron, thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, absolutely. A pleasure to talk to you, Yaffee.
So what were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base with you a little bit. I think it's really interesting that the Democrat Party is the one that's often screaming racism, but the reality is if you're really opposed to people, essentially being slaves to a system, last year is April 16th. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, say it one more time. I think you broke up for a sec.
All right. Well, Freedom Tax Day as of 2025 is April 16th. And for those that don't know, Freedom Tax Day is roughly, for the average American, how long you have to work just to pay your annual tax bill. So if you consider that, that's 29% of your year that's gone doing nothing but paying the government for their federal programs. And so if they were actually really concerned about, making sure that the people weren't exploited for their labor, they should be advocating for fewer government programs, not more. And I just think it's ironic that the party that says that they're looking out for the working man wants to have ever increased, government pressure and regulation and deficit spending that takes more and more money out of your and my pocket and food off the table from our families.
Exactly right. Exactly right. By the way, if people are wondering why I gave his full name, I forgot to mention that he is a candidate for State House, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct. Yep. I'm running for Alabama House District 10.
Alabama House District 10 that's currently held by Maryland Lands. So, I talked to you before, and then, I realized I gave your full name. People were like, does he do that with every caller? I'm like, no. He's actually running for office, but he wanted to come on. By the way, how's the campaign going?
The campaign's going really, really well. We've got a lot of momentum, and, there are a lot of people here in the area that, despite all the economic success, they really just want to be able to hold on to more resources for their families. And so they're really fired up about the race, and we're really looking forward to bringing this thing home. So, a lot of enthusiasm, and, I've been able to do a lot of door knocking, and I've really enjoyed being able to get out there and talk to the actual constituents and hearing firsthand what the issues are that they're concerned with, as opposed to trusting what focus groups and surveys say.
So I did want to ask you, remind people where District 10 is, if they don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So District 10 goes from County Line Road over to South Memorial Parkway, and then roughly from 565 south to the Tennessee River. And there's a big stretch that goes through the city of Madison. But every square inch of Redstone Arsenal, the Space and Rocket Center, Huntsville International Airport, it's all within the confines of House District 10. So it's a really, really important district for the economy of not only Madison County, but the state of Alabama as well.
Now, I'm guessing, though, you're going against an incumbent, correct?
Sure. Yes, sir.
So I'm guessing it's going to be tough to get this seat.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But, the reality is this. At the end of the day, one of the things I really enjoy about being a candidate is my job is to go out and be a voice for the value system that I hold. And I really enjoy being able to go out and advocate for the policies and things that we know have a proven track record of helping Alabama families. And, really, how difficult a job is shouldn't have any bearing over whether or not we, for lack of a better term, pick up that role and responsibility and run with it. And so, on the surface, it might seem, like a daunting task, but, I take a look at, some of the struggles that people have and the pressures that they're feeling. And, honestly, folks are really wanting a change, and they're wanting an opportunity to, like I said, hold on to more of the resources that they've rightfully earned. They're not looking for government handouts. They're looking for the dignity of an honest paycheck and the ability to go home at night and spend time with their families and not have to worry about, ever increasing government bureaucracy.
Speaking with Aaron Thomas, he is running for House District 10, running against Democrat Marilyn Lands. Was this affected by the redistricting?
There are some people who are fired up about it for sure. To be honest, I just think it's kind of interesting that the folks that seem to be the most frustrated with this, they're basically saying it's racist, but really what the Republican caucus did was they removed race from the equation. We want to make sure that people aren't defined by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, and that seems to be the exact opposite that the Democrat Party is trying to advocate for right now.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that. So if you have, I'll give you a chance actually here to talk about some of your main priorities. If you end up getting elected, what has the legislature done that you like, but what do you think needs to be done?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the question. To start off with, I would say we need to finish, the work that we're doing with overtime taxes. We need to make sure that we completely get rid of the grocery tax. We also need to seriously look at getting rid of some of the taxes that we have on essential items, like diapers, baby formula, just different things like that. Additionally, we've got to make sure that we have the Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs, really optimized for our military families that are here in the area, because there are a lot of people that have moved into our community specifically because of the opportunities here. And we need to make sure that this state is kind of pulling their weight and making sure that they get every bit of the benefits that they've fought for and earned. I think when it comes to the Republican leadership, we've got a lot of really, really, really good people who have a heart for taking care of Alabamians. And, we've got a really good coalition of Republicans up here who are bringing home the bacon to the district. But there's some things that we need to improve. So, for instance, when you take a look at the road system and the infrastructure here, we've started to miss out on some good economic opportunities because of that. And, when you consider that, Birmingham got, I think it was like $2.2 billion for their road system. And here in North Alabama for Madison County, we got $192 million. We're getting pennies on the dollar compared to what we're contributing to the state's overall economic growth and development. And so we've really got to get our fair share of dollars because it's a good investment for the rest of the state. And one of the things that's really disappointing in that is that if you have a representative that kind of has one issue that they're primarily focusing on, and is a Democrat, they can't work with the Republican caucus to represent us and bring that infrastructure money up here. And so that's one of the reasons we've got to get this seat back. We've got to make sure that we have accurate and effective representation down in Montgomery, making sure that we can take care of Alabama families up here.
Aaron Thomas, he was actually just calling in to comment on something I had said because I was talking about that Democrat lawmaker who's calling everyone racist, but he's going to be out soon. He lost his primary, but wanted to give him a chance to talk about his campaign. He's running for House District 10 as the Republican against Democrat Marilyn Lands. Aaron, if people want to find out about your campaign, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And just really quick, I want to say I am a fan of your show, even though I am also running for office. So, it's a lot of good information. So anybody that's interested, it's Aaron Thomas, AARON THOMAS FOR 4HD10.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and just really, really excited to be able to be out there and meeting as many of you guys, and really looking forward to earning your vote.
Yeah, and flattery works. That's true. If you say you're a fan, so I give you an opportunity to talk even more. That's
hey,
what can I say?
I've been married for 11 years. It does work. So
yeah, you've learned well. Aaron, really appreciate you. Really appreciate you coming on. Good luck with the campaign. We'll bring you on again before the election.
All right, sounds good, Yaffee. Thanks so much, and have a blessed day, sir.
All right, there you go. If you want to react to any of that, by the way, you can. We have our Yaffee text line. As I keep saying, I'm like Trump. I'm just branding everything Yaffee. He brands everything Trump. I'm just saying it's Yaffee. So and it's my real name. Some people still think it's fake. No, it is my real last name, just so you know. But the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. It's brought to you by Regenesis Stem Cell Center. I want you to make an appointment with Regenesis today. We're in the summer. It's been raining, but a lot of times you want to go swimming. Maybe you want to do more hiking. Maybe you want to go outside and play some golf. The weather's been, like I said, miserable lately, but when it gets warmer, you're not stuck inside all the time. But you try to do all of those things, but then you deal with a lot of joint pain. And it makes it unbearable. You just don't end up exercising. It's not good. Well, there is a solution to the joint pain. It's using your own body's adult stem cells to take away the pain. Well, how do you do that? You call Dr. Charles Lee at Regenesis Stem Cell Center. Go to the website right now, regenesisstemcell.com. You can make an appointment on the website or give them a call, 256-715-8193. Don't let injuries or pain slow you down any longer. regenesisstemcell.com. Let them know Yaffee sent you. We'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. I am the bulwark of talk radio on WVNN. I didn't say that. The listeners did. Now they're comparing me to Rush Limbaugh. What can I say? This is why Dale makes fun of me as much as he can. He's jealous. I don't know if Dale can get jealous. I'm not even sure that's possible, to be honest with you. But there you go. And if you ask Grok about me, it says I'm the voice of reason, which is true. So I'm becoming a bigger and bigger fan of AI. That's the message. Anyway, I want to give you the latest details on the redistricting battle here. According to YellowHammerNews.com, it says on Wednesday, Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall hauled Alabama's redistricting fight back before the U.S. Supreme Court, filing emergency stay applications in all three redistricting cases. The filings ask Associate Justice Clarence Thomas to immediately stay the preliminary injunction issued on Monday by the same panel that has now ruled against Alabama 4 times. Now, Clarence Thomas, it's good that he's the one in the Supreme Court that would make this decision, because I think he will. Steve Marshall also talked about this further on. Go ahead if you can, Walker. Play Steve Marshall cut 1 for me.
We were clearly disappointed but not surprised based upon the hearing that took place on Friday. And what I think is the greatest disappointment is that while the Calais decision, I think, was very clear that when courts are evaluating a Section 2 claim, that you cannot intertwine the issues of race and partisanship, they continue to do that in this order. It shows that the court was unwilling to accept the fact that the court has modified the analysis for a Section 2 claim. And when you appropriately consider the factors as defined by the court recently, I believe Alabama should prevail, and we're confident in what we're going to be able to do with the Supreme Court.
Now, as I mentioned, there are some, even conservatives, who believe that, no, the Supreme Court is not going to side with Steve Marshall. Now, if the whole Supreme Court has to weigh in, I could see some reluctance. But I do think, since it is Clarence Thomas, he will put forward that injunction. Because, to me, the 3-judge panel, as I mentioned yesterday, all they did in their ruling was say, well, Alabama's still racist. Yep, they're racist. And then they spit in the face of the Supreme Court. So what it feels like to me, they have to have known that it was going to be overturned. Maybe I'm wrong. Go and play Steve Marshall cut 2.
No, I don't think the legislature at all drew these maps for either unintentional or intentional racial reasons. I think what you saw is what the legislature in every state across this country has the ability to do is use partisan reasons along with traditional redistricting principles to draw a map consistent with those that elected them to that office. That's what our legislature did, and I think they complied with what the Supreme Court said is their authority to do so.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. The idea is the Supreme Court said, look, you cannot just gerrymander based on race. This 3-judge panel says, oh, no, our map is race neutral, which is impossible. I know I keep saying this. You can't force the state to draw a map with another minority opportunity district and then say our map is race neutral, when by definition you are telling they didn't even allow Alabama to draw the map. They just did it themselves. But by the definition, they drew it based on race. They admit to it. You can't say that and then come later and say, no, our map is actually race neutral. It doesn't make any sense. Go ahead and play Steve Marshall cut 3.
Well, I don't think that we are designing maps to have race-specific reasons. I think the Calais decision of the Supreme Court said very clearly that race should not be a factor in drawing lines. And what we've seen is that the map that Alabama was originally proposing at the beginning of this decade was very consistent with the map that we've gone back to the 1990s. It's been validated by multiple courts, was approved and pre-cleared even back during the Obama administration, and then but for changes in population has historically been what we've used for quite some time. And if you look at the 3-judge panel's decision, one of the things that they are criticizing Alabama is for wanting to keep together the Gulf states counties. And when we see the Gulf Coast have been together for over 50 years, that's done because that region is very much unique and compared to the Wiregrass, for example, which has a very different economy and a very different sort of geography there. The fact that the legislature chose to keep our Gulf Coast together is very consistent with what the legislature is allowed to be able to do and is not designed for any racially discriminatory reasons.
Okay, amen. That's exactly right. Look, you are allowed to do it based on politics, communities of interest, and politics to help your party. That is not illegal. It's just the way it is. It's not a perfect system, but it's better than all the rest, as they say. But that's what they did. It was not about race. Just because they scream racist over and over again doesn't make that the fact. By the way, a lot of you thought I was crazy. Well, I don't know, a lot of you. Some of you, anyway, thought I was crazy because I said Steve Marshall should be our next U.S. Attorney General. Now, apparently that's probably not going to happen. I mean, I know it's a long shot. I'm just saying he should do it. It would be good for the country. But I know Trump probably won't. But I wrote about this. It was my op-ed at yellowhammernews.com. Some people disagreed with me. I don't know why. But in writing that op-ed, I mean, I did some research and give you some examples of what Steve Marshall did in the past. In 2024, Marshall filed an amicus brief with the U.S. Supreme Court in support of Tennessee and Kentucky laws that will protect children from experimental gender transitional treatments. He was on the forefront of that. He was on the forefront of protecting life in the push to overturn Roe v. Wade. He was on the forefront of protecting Title IX against the redefinition by the Biden administration, wanting to base it on gender identity. And he was on the forefront of this issue when it came to redistricting and arguing in front of the Supreme Court. So he's the right guy, I think. So if it's not Trump who appoints him, I think someone in the future should. All right, coming up next, speaking of Trump sending a message to Iran. Is it strong enough? We'll talk about that next on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
To him, make sure you tell him Dale Jackson sent you.
The Yaffee program on WVNN.
Breaking news, everyone. Breaking news. Iran has violated the ceasefire. Shock and awe. I know everyone out there can't believe. I'm sure you're just so surprised. What? Iran has violated the ceasefire? No, not Iran. They would never. This is where we are. You know, I called what we're in Project Pause. That's because we had Project Freedom, which was to open up the strait via the Navy. Lasted for 36 hours, then he paused it. We've been in the ceasefire for a while, Project Pause. I guess I should call it the quasi-ceasefire. We were calling it the quasi-war, kind of named after what the war in the seas against France was during the Adams administration in the beginning of this country. So I called this the quasi-war. I guess we're in the quasi-ceasefire. I don't know what to call this. What is happening? But Trump insists that he's going to get a good deal. It will not have major sanctions relief, and it will make sure that Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. So we'll have to talk about this in a moment. You are listening to the Yaffee program. I am Alabama's voice of reason. in a world that, yes, is sometimes beyond reason. If you want to weigh in, we have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNM, brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. Let me give you the latest here, because this is really breaking news. It says U.S. Central Command says Iran launched a ballistic missile against Kuwait. Now, is anyone else like, why do they have any ballistic missiles left? I thought we took out, we need to take them all out. But that's just me. Maybe it's just me. They did this late Wednesday night after the U.S. shot down Iranian drones over the Strait of Hormuz. At 10:17 p.m. Eastern Time on May 27th, Iran launched a ballistic missile toward Kuwait that was successfully intercepted by Kuwaiti forces. This egregious ceasefire violation by the Iranian regime occurred hours after Iranian forces launched 5 one-way attack drones that posed a clear threat in and near the Strait of Hormuz. All drones were successfully intercepted by U.S. forces, which also prevented a 6th drone launch from an Iranian ground control site in Bandar Abbas. It says U.S. Central Command and regional partners remain vigilant and measured as we continue to defend our forces and interests from unjustified Iranian aggression. All right. Can we bomb them now? I mean, I'm glad that we can go and stop the drones. It's all good, but what seems to be happening here is you have the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps in conflict with the parliamentary government there. And you have members of the Guard Corps that really are radicals and want to fight to the end, want to keep attacking, and you have the government trying to make a deal and trying to wait us out. Now, President Trump originally was going to do a meeting on this at Camp David, talking about next steps. He decided to change it and did a cabinet meeting at the White House. He invited reporters in at the beginning as well. He says we're going to get a good deal. He hasn't been satisfied with their offers yet, but we're on the way. At least that's what he's saying. Now, go ahead if you can, Walker. Play President Trump cut 1 for me. This is from that meeting yesterday.
Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but no, we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job. It looks like they want to just make a deal. They want to. They have, I don't think they have a choice. They're just going back to the internet because they're getting clobbered. Their economy is in free fall. They have 250% inflation. Their money has no value. Their whole economic system is broken down. We have control of money that they claim is theirs. We'll keep control of that money. And when they behave properly and when they do what's right, we'll let them have their money. But right now, we're not doing that. And it's one thing is not contingent on the other. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine. They're negotiating on fumes. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we have to go back and finish it. Maybe we don't. No, we're not talking about any easing of sanctions or giving money. No sanctions, no money, no nothing. We have control of money that they claim is theirs. We'll keep control of that money. And when they behave properly and when they do what's right, we'll let them have their money.
So a couple of things he said there. It was a little bit of a montage of different stuff. But he said, 1, we're not satisfied yet with a deal. 2, we'll see. We might have to go back in and finish the job. 3, we're not talking about immediate sanctions relief. And 4, it was necessary to stop them from having a nuclear weapon, despite the politics of it all. Now, obviously, the politics of this, a lot of that has to do with the fact that gas prices have been high, which affects the economy, inflation, everything else, just when we were starting to get a lot of that under control. Now, Trump did respond to the issue of energy prices. Go and play Trump cut 2.
We're blessed with the greatest piece of land in the world from that standpoint, and we have more than anybody else. And now when you add Venezuela to it, we have, I think, 64% of the world's oil. We had gasoline down to a very low number. I think we'll be hitting that number shortly after that whole excursion ends. The primary urgency is that we can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. But at the same time, we have a tremendous amount of oil, gas, coal. We have tremendous amounts of energy. We're blessed with something very special.
No, he's right. I mean, the fact is, if it were not for Trump policies, Republican policies to open up the spigot, drill for more oil, natural gas, fracking, everything else, we would be in a much worse position. Just look at Europe now. But the fact also is gas prices are high. Oil prices are high. What happens in Iran still affects oil prices here. It's just the reality. Now, Scott Bessent, Trump's Treasury Secretary, was there as well, talking about all this. Play the Scott Bessent cut for me.
In terms of prices, I believe the prices are transitory. Oil will be lower than pre-conflict levels when this ends. Natural gas is already down.
Now, that's kind of interesting because not only is he saying this is transitory, which that word makes me nervous because they said that before in inflation, and it wasn't after COVID. But he says it's transitory. He also says it's going to be lower after this conflict ends. I'm guessing what he is thinking is that there'll be kind of such a demand because there's been a lot of storing of oil that isn't getting to places. So there's going to be like an extra glut of oil out there so that the supply will overwhelm the demand and prices will go down. Now, I remind you, I had E.J. Antoni on early in the week. He's an economist with the Heritage Foundation. He thinks the opposite. He thinks there is going to be a demand bubble because they're going to want to re-up their reserves. And because of that demand surge, prices will still kind of remain high because the supply still will not be able to keep up. I'm curious what you think. I mean, even if it doesn't go down to pre-war levels right away, it's going to go down. And I think it will go down pretty quickly. Now, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent also said this. This is latest news. He delivered an update on U.S. efforts to destabilize Iran's economy. Bessent said Operation Economic Fury remains in full swing as peace talks between Iran and Washington continue. He's going on to announce new sanctions relating to the Strait of Hormuz. He said their troops are not getting paid, the police are not reporting for work, and Karg Island is shut down. He said Iran's Persian Gulf Strait Authority is a joke, and today Treasury has sanctioned it. We have warned any corporate or state entities against paying tolls or hiding them as aid payments. So now there are more sanctions on them where they're really hoping to squeeze Iran. So Trump there says that there is no deal. There's not going to be sanctions relief. But as I mentioned earlier on in the week, I was still concerned. I would prefer we just go in and finish the job. I really believe that one of the reasons why poll numbers are low for Trump on this, approval of this is very low, it's not just gas prices. I think it's the uncertainty of a lot of it and the fact that nothing seems to be changing. I really think we would have had higher approval. Now, you don't do things just based on political approval. I get that. You want to do what's right. But I think people would understand higher gas prices if we were actually trying to finish the job and take Iran out as much as we can. I think that's understandable, but we're in this weird quasi-ceasefire, Project Pause thing, and I think that actually makes it more unpopular. Now, one person I really respect on this, as I've said before, General Jack Keane. He's a retired general. He was talking about this on Fox News after news of a possible deal, which he's not sure about. Play the Jack Keane cut for me, Walker.
But my problem with the deal here is that we leave Iran bruised but intact, and they'll walk away from here citing and convincing themselves that they got the United States to back down. And as a result of that, we extend a lifeline to the regime for sure, for them to do what? To recover. And in the deal, the unfrozen assets are about $100 billion. It's likely we're going to take some part of that and give that to them up front and also reduce some of the sanctions. And certainly we're going to monitor their behavior. But nonetheless, it is a lifeline to the regime that extends them for years to come. The next administration is going to wind up having to deal with them. That's not where we started. Remember, we started to weaken this regime, to devastate and take away their capabilities to be a predator in the region, support the proxies for sure, and obviously not have any nuclear capability whatsoever.
That's where I am on this as well, that the concern is that we're going to give Iran enough room to recover without really forcing an end to the nuclear program. They just wait until Trump's out of office and they go back to it because we weren't hard enough on them. And I think it's because we didn't finish the job. Now, you can tell me what you think. We have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. 866-494-WVNN. This segment of the program brought to you by Jay's Appliance Outlet. If you need a new refrigerator, it's not fun, especially right now. Maybe your kids, my daughter likes popsicles. We make ice pops. Kind of hard to do if your freezer isn't working right. That could be a problem, screaming kids. If you need a new refrigerator, if you need a new freezer, or maybe you need a washer and dryer because, my daughter, she likes the popsicle, but some of it gets on her clothes and we have to put it in the washer, of course, stains. If you have kids, well, you need a washer that works. If you need any of that, you can find it at Jay's Appliance Outlet. They're located in Athens off 72. I want you to go today, talk with them. They're family owned and operated, great customer service, the best prices, and they can deliver to anywhere in the area, and they service what they sell. So dial pound 250, say the keywords Jay's Appliance Outlet, or go to their showroom off 72 in Athens. When you go, let them know Yaffee was the one who sent you. All right, we'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN. If you like Yaffee, why not show it by liking the Yaffee Facebook page now? You can also follow him on Instagram. Now, back to the Yaffee program on WVNN.
Oh, man, just another example of the propaganda press trying their best to put out propaganda. Welcome back to the Yaffee program. No, not this show. No, I'm your truth czar. This is Huntsville's disinformation board. No, I was just kind of Googling the Ken Paxton victory in Texas. And these are some of the headlines here. None of these are really the headlines that they should be after a pretty big win by Ken Paxton. But NBC News, here's their headline. Republicans brace for money problems in Texas after Ken Paxton's win. Politico, Paxton win sparks GOP money panic. Here's another one from the BBC. Ken Paxton's win over John Cornyn in Texas primary may also help Democrats in Senate battle. Okay. Reuters, 5 ways Paxton's big win in Texas could backfire on Trump. I mean, here, Washington Post. Why some Republicans are worried about Ken Paxton as a Senate nominee. Financial Times, Ken Paxton's victory gives Democrats new hope in Texas Senate race. MS Now, of course, Ken Paxton wins, hands Democrats their issue for 2026. The only one that's like a decent one is from The Guardian, where it says Trump ramps up attacks on Talrico after Paxton's Texas Senate runoff win. That's like the only normal headline. The rest are just like, wow, Ken Paxton won? This is very, very bad. Why did Ken Paxton win by so much? Because there was a lot of talk about Trump's endorsement at the last minute for him, and maybe that put him over the edge, but there was no putting him over the edge. He won by 20 points? I was trying to find the exact number. Okay, yeah, here it is. Ken Paxton, 63.8% of Republican voters, where John Cornyn had 36.2%. I'm sorry, that is much more than a Trump endorsement that makes a difference. That is Republican voters in Texas sending a message that John Cornyn just wasn't getting the job done. Now, John Cornyn was very good at raising money, but the average voter doesn't really care about that. I'm not saying you shouldn't care about that, but really the frustration is that Republicans, they have the White House, they have the House, and they have the Senate. And yet the average Republican voter feels like, well, that they're not getting anything done despite that. Now, I will say some of that's a little unfair because you have such a slim majority in the House and in the Senate, it's kind of a slim majority, that it's very hard to get something. The real problem is we are so divided that is reflected in our politics to the point where a lot of these elections are like 50-50. So you have the House and the Senate basically 50-50. And it kind of goes back and forth. So it's really difficult to pass overwhelming broad reform agenda, which is why a lot of people are looking to the president to do it because Congress can't get it done. But that's why. But the average voter, they just look at it and they think, look, John Cornyn is just not fighting hard enough for us. Now, I do think there is a difference between fighting and winning. I do think there is a difference between just fighting aimlessly and actually having a smart strategy. But I'm trying to just kind of look back, look at the big picture, and that's got to be what it is. Texas Republicans, they want the Senate to get more done for them, and they don't feel like John Cornyn was really doing it. He was just coming off as another Mitch McConnell type rhino, good at raising money, but not really good at helping pass the Trump agenda. So I also think Ken Paxton has some problems. He will be easy to attack in some ways. But, I mean, winning 63% of the Republican vote, that shows a lot of energy behind him. And I don't think the Democrats, especially Talrico, who is just a radical leftist, the best hope that Republicans have the midterms is, once again, they're running against the radical left. And that's one reason why Trump won, I think. And Democrats refuse to actually change. Now, I say all that. I still think Democrats probably do take the House. It's still not going to be great for Republicans this year in the midterms unless something changes. But I don't think it's as bad as all these headlines say from the propaganda press. Now, Scott Jennings is the voice of reason of CNN. You know, I'm the voice of reason of Alabama, but he's the voice of reason of CNN. He was on CNN after the election victory of Ken Paxton, and he brought up a really good point, I think, talking about Ken Paxton's opponents and Ken Paxton versus James Talrico, the Democrat. Go and play the Scott Jennings cut for me.
Yeah. All these analysis of this race is sort of the differences between what a Cornyn or a Paxton would look like here. I'm thinking about the differences between Talrico and literally every other Texan. Don't know any Texans who believe in 6 genders other than Talrico. Don't know any Texans who said it's immoral to eat meat other than Talrico. Don't know any Texans who walk around saying things, you know, God is non-binary. You all are both Texans. Do you know any other Texan who even talks like that? Issues aside, who says these things out loud? When this gets adjudicated, all that money coming in from California and New York, it'll be well spent in Texas.
You know what I'm smelling, Scott? Fear. Panic.
Fear?
Raw, stinking panic. You guys
Fear
are
of a
on this.
cisgender guy?
I do love that because, like, Scott Jennings comes in and he goes, look, there's all this talk about Ken Paxton, Democrats can beat him. I don't know why James Talrico is a radical leftist, doesn't reflect the voters of Texas. Don't think that's going to change. And then the Democrat pundit, I forget his name, but the Democrat pundit was there, was like, you're afraid, Scott. He's like, I am? He's like, I don't really sound afraid. He didn't sound, did anyone think Scott Jennings sounded like he was panicking there? I mean, you can admit that Republicans might be worried, but Scott Jennings did not sound afraid there. I mean, it was like he just had that line in his head and just said it. No matter what Scott Jennings was going to say or how he was going to act, he had planned to say, you're afraid, panic. But no, I mean, Republican voters sent a message here. They want a Republican who's actually going to fight for them. And they didn't feel like John Cornyn was willing to do it. Way beyond the Trump endorsement. All right, going to move on to What's Trending with Walker coming up next. I always end the show with the Yaffee program rewind as well. Stay with us. Half hour to go on the Yaffee program.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. We are here on Newstalk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. You can always catch this show 9 to 11 a.m., Monday through Friday. Also, don't forget you can get it on the WVNN app at WVNN.com or any of your smart devices, of course. So AM, FM, online, your Amazon Echo, whatever, your cell phone, whatever it might be, you can get the Yaffee program. Walker is here, so let's get right to it. We have What's Trending with Walker.
Keeping you up to date with all that's trending in your world.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
You guys know how to post videos to Facebook?
It's What's Trending.
Sponsored by Coleman Furniture Market, located in the heart of Coleman, Alabama. You want to go there because they always have What's Trending in furniture, and they always have the best prices, the best brands, the best selection, the best customer service. Oh, did I mention the best prices? Oh, and they can deliver to anywhere in the state of Alabama. You're going to be overwhelmed by the selection, and they're just awesome. There is a reason why most of the furniture in my house is from Coleman Furniture Market. So a couple of different ways to find out about them. Go to the website, ColemanFurnitureMarket.com. Like their Facebook page, follow them on Instagram, or better yet, go to the store. Yes, located in the heart of Coleman, Alabama. Go today. When you do, let them know Yaffee sent you. All right, Walker, what's number 5 today?
Well, if you didn't know, it is National Hamburger Day. And
I did not know.
There are a lot of deals going on.
Ooh, sweet.
Whether it's a local place like Bad Daddy's Burger Bar or Burger King, Hardee's, Checkers, Hard Rock Cafe.
Okay, I was like, Five Guys? You get the Five Guys. That's my favorite.
Do not see Five Guys. I'm so sorry.
Man.
There's
I guess I'll
Farmer
get a Whopper.
Boys. I don't know what that is.
All right, I guess I'll get a Whopper. What do you like burgers?
I do like burgers, especially because my dad is a burger fanatic.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Does he have a favorite place?
I'm not sure. He does really like Big Macs.
Okay, well, old school. I like it.
Yes.
That's good. What about you?
I really like Sonic burgers.
You know, I don't think I've ever had a Sonic burger. I have no idea. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, especially they have like smash burgers now, and those are even better.
I do like a good smash burger. What about sliders? You ever get some sliders? Good.
Not really. If I get sliders, it's usually like a buffalo chicken slider.
I mean, that sounds good too. I'm not going to lie. Now I'm hungry. As usual, with your What's Trending, somehow your goal is to make me hungry.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's usually what
right
happens.
Before lunch.
Exactly. All right, what's number 4?
Number 4, a Las Vegas Strip icon, Caesars Entertainment, has been sold for $6 billion by Fertitta, a company that owns Las Vegas's Golden Nugget and chains like Rainforest Cafe and Morton's.
Yeah, I it's funny. I was reading. I love Rainforest Cafe.
I've never been, but I've always wanted to go.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, they had one in Orlando at, it was called Disney Village. Now it's called Disney Springs. But I'd been a couple times when I was a kid. It's a lot of fun. You probably, like, Evie would probably be too young for it. She'd probably be scared at like 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're like 5, 6, 7, it's a lot of fun. But I had heard that they grew really fast and then they started to have a lot of money problems. So they've shut down several of their restaurants.
I've been told that the food is nothing spectacular, but it's just the experience that you go for.
Right. Well, but it's expensive. So that's the issue. I mean, eventually people, you get the experience, but it's like, okay, I expect the food to be a little bit better for what I'm paying.
Right.
Is kind of the argument. So I think they've worked on that. But yeah, just tell you how popular it was in Orlando. We were going to go once for a birthday, and the wait was 6 hours.
Oh, wow.
6 hours. So we didn't go. We went somewhere else. But then another time, I went to a concert, and we just sat at the bar, and it was like right away. So I don't know. But 6 hours is the longest I've ever heard for a wait at a restaurant.
I have never heard anything like that.
6 hours. It's crazy. All right, what is number 3?
Number 3, Busch Light is letting fans decide their next flavor, where they can vote on whether it's lemon, orange, or peach from May 27th to July 7th.
All right, so what would you vote for?
I would vote for the peach, probably.
Okay. I'm not really much of a beer drinker, so I don't really care.
I'm not much of one either, so.
I know some people like the orange, I guess, for beer. If we asked Dale Jackson, he would say, I don't want any flavor. He doesn't want it to taste good. He just wants to be able to drink a lot of it.
I don't know how. I don't even like the smell of most beer.
Oh,
so.
That's true. It does have an. Yeah, I mean, if you get the fancy stuff, it smells a little bit better. But yeah, the average like beer doesn't have that great of a smell. But some people like it. I don't know. Not really my thing. But do we know? So they haven't like taken a poll or anything on who's getting the most votes, have they?
You can comment on their social media posts, and you can probably see what people are saying the most.
See what people are saying.
You can also go to bush.com/flavor showdown to officially vote.
I'm going to guess orange wins. I have no idea why. I'm just going to guess.
There are a lot of orange beers. Or at least beers that usually have like an orange piece on the rim.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, what's number 2? Are you number 2?
Yes, number 2, Meta is launching a new Facebook group-focused app called Forum, and it's to compete with Reddit, really. Says that it's supposed to be a Reddit-like experience.
Go on. What is it called again? It's a forum thing similar to Reddit. Facebook always does this.
Yes.
They're like, oh, there's something called Snapchat. We're going to do
instance on Instagram.
We're going to do the thing on, what is it? Stories. That's what I was looking for.
Meta says Forum gives a dedicated space built for deeper discussions, real answers, and the communities you care about. Says that it's a significant example of how social media platforms are adding features to power their artificial intelligence products.
So I'm trying to think here because, Facebook has, they stole they basically just bought Instagram. So that was when they just bought them.
Yes.
But they stole the idea. I mean, Facebook is almost a stolen idea from MySpace in and of itself. But then they bought Instagram, then they stole Snapchat with stories. Then they have Reels, which is basically TikTok. They have Threads, which is supposed to be like Twitter. And now they have this, which is supposed to be like Reddit.
Yes. It says that, of course, groups still exist on Facebook, and anything you share on Forum will be visible on Facebook. It's to focus on what real people are saying and not just what's trending.
All right. We'll see. I feel like Threads did not really take off.
Yeah, and I get annoyed when I see ads for it because, of course, it'll show a post someone's made, and sometimes they're interesting, but it won't show the whole thing. And when you click on it, it's like, oh, download Threads.
I know.
And it just makes me so angry.
It does. You're right, because it will be something interesting. I do that too, where I'll be like, oh, what's this? And then it's like, no, I don't want to download Threads. No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
nope.
I've been fighting it.
That's really fun. I guess it works, though. I mean, we click on it, so I guess there's some people out there that will download it just to see.
Yeah, I know that my mom has it, and she probably did it because of that.
Yeah, probably. All right, what's number 1?
Number 1, Dana White is having to defend that the UFC White House event is patriotic and not political.
Okay.
It takes place on June 14th. It's the Freedom 250 event to celebrate America's 250th anniversary. And there will be invite-only attendees, says estimated 4,300, with 1,200 of those being active-duty military members.
Okay, well, that's cool. I like that part of it.
And he says that he has sworn off politics since the 2024 election and describes the event as patriotic.
Well, I mean, I would agree. I think one of the reasons they're doing it is because the 250th anniversary. He has been very political in the past, though. You know, he's been a supporter of Trump. Trump loves to go to UFC events, so it's hard to separate that. When it comes to the whole stadium being built on the White House lawn, Dale thinks it's awesome. You have a lot of people on the left that are like, oh, this is terrible. I'm kind of somewhere in between. You know, I mean, obviously, if I were in D.C., I'd want to go look at it. It's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a part of me that's like, is this really what our government should be doing? I'm just, that's the only thing. I'm like, you know, I'm such a limited government guy. I don't want, you know, the government to put a big UFC show on. That's just me. I mean, I know we're not, taxpayers aren't paying for it or whatever, but
right.
That's my only thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Dana White said that he personally is paying a lot of money to have it happen.
Right. I mean, it's a huge, it gets, for PR standpoint for UFC, it's a huge deal. So I understand that.
Do you watch? Sorry.
No, I'm not. I don't watch it.
Okay.
Really. I never got into it.
I've seen some of it. But it's usually just something I watch when friends who are interested in it say something.
I mean, I was into wrestling when I was, which obviously is different in a way. That's staged, but for the most part. But I was into wrestling when I was in middle school, high school. Not really into that. Never really got into UFC. I'm just not, I don't know.
Yeah, my
got into it.
Boyfriend has told me that in high school he was on a wrestling team.
Oh, well, that's different than like wrestling on TV.
Yeah.
But
I just thought that was interesting.
He's tall, so I don't know if that helps you in wrestling or not. Actually,
I think maybe it would. I mean, I feel like it gives you a lot of leverage.
Right. Interesting. All right, appreciate it, Walker. We'll be back with the Yaffee program rewind in a moment here on WVNN.
The Yaffee program.
Spill.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. I am the Rush Limbaugh of WVNN at this point. That's what Grok said. When Dale asked Grok, it said, some people compare Yaffee to Rush Limbaugh. And I was like, wow, that's good. There's no way that's true, but I'll take it. I appreciate you listening today. In fact, it's that time of the show once again where we have the Yaffee program rewind. Sorry, the tape got stuck there. I mean, what can it happens if you remember those days of a VCR. Anyways, that time of the show where I remind you, if you missed any of it live, the podcast will be up on the website, WVNN.com, or the WVNN app. You can also find it on iHeartRadio, Spotify, the TuneIn Radio app, Apple Podcasts, CastBox, Podbean, SoundCloud, and much, much more. So at the beginning of the show today, I was talking about this rant that State Representative Kelvin Datcher, a Democrat out of Birmingham, posted. He posted it on his Facebook, and this was sort of a temper tantrum for losing his primary. And just to read part of it, he said, "Your parents were racist." That's a hard sentence to read. It's a harder sentence to say. But with the conversations happening right now about race, history, and equality in America, especially after recent Supreme Court decisions, we cannot keep avoiding uncomfortable truths. I feel like that's all we hear anymore is this racist, right? Your parents are racist, the past is racist, America's racist. So this idea we're not talking about, it's kind of absurd. But the main reason I tune him out is he starts saying that basically people are against Obamacare because Obama was the first black president. Now, I remind him and I remind everyone else, the first one to really push nationalized health care was Hillary Clinton. Hillary Care in the 90s. That failed too. Was that because everyone's racist? It's just so dumb. Just because we had racism in our past and mistakes in our past does not mean the solution now is socialism. The two things are not the same. But people like him are also never willing to admit the progress that's been made in this country, which is amazing. I mean, really is a miracle when you think about it, the amount of progress that we have made on this issue in places like Alabama, but across the country. So I talked about that at the beginning of the show, went into greater detail. The podcast is up. I had the Alabama bullet points as well. The top stories from around the state, including the fact that the U.S. Department of Justice has filed a brief backing Alabama in the Supreme Court redistricting rematch after the lower court, that 3-judge panel, blocked it again. So we also talked about that a little bit with Aaron Thomas, who is running for State House District 10. He's running against the Democrat Marilyn Lands. He called in and was talking about that. Also, I played some cuts of Attorney General Steve Marshall, who is fighting this again. In fact, go ahead if you can, Walker. Play Steve Marshall, cut 1 again for me.
Well, I think we were clearly disappointed but not surprised based upon the hearing that took place on Friday. And what I think is the greatest disappointment is that while the Calais decision, I think, was very clear that when courts are evaluating a Section 2 claim, that you cannot intertwine the issues of race and partisanship, they continue to do that in this order. It shows that the court was unwilling to accept the fact that the court has modified the analysis for a Section 2 claim. And when you appropriately consider the factors as defined by the court recently, I believe Alabama should prevail, and we're confident in what we're going to be able to do with the Supreme Court.
All right, so we'll see what happens. Some people believe that the Supreme Court will not side with Alabama. I think they will. And Justice Thomas is the one who has taken this up, so I think that's more of a chance they will. But we'll have to see. So I talked about that earlier on in the show. Then, yes, we talked about the latest in the Project Pause, the quasi-ceasefire that we currently have with Iran. President Trump trying to send a message he's still going to be tough on them. Some people are skeptical, but Trump spoke at the White House yesterday during a cabinet meeting. Go on and play a Trump cut 1 for me.
Well, Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job. It looks like they want to just make a deal. They want to. I don't think they have a choice. They're just going back to the internet because they're getting clobbered. Their economy is in free fall. They have 250% inflation. Their money has no value. Their whole economic system is broken down. We have control of money that they claim is theirs. We'll keep control of that money. And when they behave properly and when they do what's right, we'll let them have their money. But right now, we're not doing that. And it's one thing is not contingent on the other. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine. They're negotiating on fumes. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we have to go back and finish it. Maybe we don't. No, we're not talking about any easing of sanctions or giving money. No sanctions, no money, no nothing. We have control of money that they claim is theirs. We'll keep control of that money. And when they behave properly and when they do what's right, we'll let them have their money.
All right, so we talked about that earlier on in the show. I tend to agree. In fact, go ahead real quick. Play the Jack Keane cut. This is retired General Jack Keane on the Iran deal.
But my problem with the deal here is that we leave Iran bruised but intact. And they'll walk away from here citing and convincing themselves that they got the United States to back down. And as a result of that, we extend a lifeline to the regime for sure, for them to do what? To recover. And in the deal, the unfrozen assets are about $100 billion. It's likely we're going to take some part of that and give that to them up front and also reduce some of the sanctions. And certainly we're going to monitor their behavior. But nonetheless, it is a lifeline to the regime that extends them for years to come. The next administration is going to wind up having...
You can stop it there. I just wanted to say I agree with that. So we talked about that. We also talked about Ken Paxton's victory, what that means. We had what's trending. We had your text messages and calls. You can weigh in on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. Thanks to Walker for producing. Thanks to you for listening. The Vince Show is next, and I'll be back tomorrow at the same time. See you then.
It's the Yaffee Program on WVNN.